Hi, my name is Hannah Griffith, and I'm going to be presenting my analysis of the 1948 film Red River, directed by Howard Hawks. Red River is a 1948 American Western film. The film is about a cattle drive, which is the culmination of over 14 years of work to Missouri. The film is rooted in history and inspired by real cattle drives, making the cattle drive sequences very realistic. Red River is also considered post-war propaganda due to its themes of power, authority, fellowship, and American expansion. The film gives a fictional account of the first cattle drive from Texas to Missouri along the Chisholm Trail. The basic plot is that it follows Thomas Dunson, who has started a cattle drive from Texas to Missouri. With him, Matthew Garth, who becomes independent and capable. As the strain of the trip increases, Dunson becomes tyrannical, and Matt takes control of the drive. Dunson sets out to take revenge, which leads to an intense confrontation between the two. It is settled, and they come to a mutual understanding. First, I'm going to cover the artistic production. The director of the film was Howard Hawks. He directed a large variety of films, including action adventures, comedies, westerns, and more. He was named the Gray Fox of Hollywood because of his persona of a ladies' man. He is also one of the most celebrated American filmmakers. His film features large male casts and pragmatic visual styles. In Red River, Hawks balances action with drama, and every scene in the film contributed to the larger story. Hawks managed the vast landscapes, large-scale cattle drive sequences, and intimate character moments very well. The themes of fellowship and authority are apparent, making the relationships in the film feel really genuine. The film was shot in black and white rather than color because Hawks found Technicolor to be too garish for the realistic style desired. Next are the screenwriters. The two screenwriters of the film were Borden Chase and Charles Schnee. Borden Chase was a screenwriter for some wartime films, though his most famous films were westerns that featured anti-heroes and unsound characters. Red River was largely written by Borden Chase. He received a lot of praise for Red River and was nominated for Academy Awards for Best Writing Motion Picture Story. Charles Schnee was an Academy Award-winning writer who abandoned a career as a lawyer after he graduated from Yale Law School in 1946 to become a screenwriter and producer. Charles Schnee leaned toward melodramas in his career, and most of his westerns that he contributed to tended to show that. Next is a cinematographer. The cinematographer for Red River was Russell Harlan. Harlan worked on many films with different genres, including westerns and dramas. Harlan's cinematography in the film is known for capturing the sweep and grime of the cattle drive. His work on Red River helped establish him as one of Hollywood's most gifted cinematographers. He was nominated 6 times for the Academy Award for Best Cinematography, including 2 in 1962 for his work on Hatari and To Kill a Mockingbird. Harlan also earned Oscar nominations for The Big Sky and Hatari. Next, we'll cover the key actors of the film. First, we're starting off with John Wayne as Thomas Dunson. Wayne was an actor during Hollywood's golden age and became popular for his roles in westerns and wartime films. In the film, Wayne's character, Thomas Dunson, is a cattle rancher who is determined to own the biggest cattle ranch in Texas and later to drive his cattle from Texas to a far more favorable market in Missouri. Dunson is a power-obsessed rancher who is driven by the pursuit of his goals that ultimately leads to tyranny and the loss of his cattle to his adopted son for a time. Next is Montgomery Clift as Matthew Garth. Montgomery Clift was a 4-time Academy Award-nominated actor known for his good looks, independent spirit, and portrayal of a sensitive young man. In the film, we meet Garth as a teenager who was separated from his family after they were attacked by Indians. He met Dunson and was adopted by him. He was raised by him on his cattle ranch. Initially, he respected and remained loyal to Dunson, but later in the film, we see a shift in his character when he recognizes Dunson's tyranny. During the cattle drive to Missouri, Matt questions Dunson's leadership and ends up taking control of the drive. Matt's character contrasted Dunson and represented fair leadership. Next is Walter Brennan as Nadine Groot. Nadine Groot served as a comedic relief in the film. He worked beside Dunson for years, and though he questioned his leadership occasionally, he remained loyal to him throughout the drive. Nadine was beside Dunson since the beginning and was a trusted friend of his. His character brings a sense of lightheartedness to the film and balances the intensity of parts of the film. Next is John Ireland as Cherry Valance. Cherry is a supporting character in the film and is a skilled cowboy who joins Dunson on his drive to Missouri. Early on, there is a mix of respect and rivalry between himself and Matthew Garth. Ultimately siding with Matthew, he helps him navigate the trail to get to Missouri. Next is Noah Beery Jr. as Buster McGee. Beery was a supporting character that brought warmth to the film. Beery was known for playing the likable sidekick in Western films, and he brought a layer of relatability to the intensity of the cattle drive. Next is Joanne Dru as Tess Millay. Tess Millay becomes romantically involved with Matthew Garth when he rescues her from an Indian raid. She is strong and independent, which was unusual for female characters. Her character added warmth and intelligence to the film. She was more than a love interest to Matt, but a voice of reason, being the one to intervene the confrontation between Garth and Dunson at the end of the film. Dru's role in Red River helped establish her as a prominent actress in Westerns, leading to later performances in films like She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, 1949, and Wagon Master, 1950. Next is Colleen Gray as Fen. Fen was introduced at the beginning of the film as Dunson's love interest. When Dunson leaves to start his own cattle ranch, he leaves her behind only to discover that she has been killed in an Indian raid. Her death develops a sense of loss in Dunson's character and influences his decisions throughout the film. This early role helped launch her career, leading to later appearances in Nightmare Alley, 1947, Kiss of Death, 1947, and The Killing, 1956. Next, I'm going to talk about the weaknesses of the film. The film had a somewhat rushed conclusion after an intense buildup between Garth and Dunson. They're interrupted in a way and forced into resolve by Tess. This conclusion did not meet the expectation that was accompanied by the buildup prior to it. Critics also say that Dunson's quick transformation from tyrannical leader to forgiving father is unnatural and that the end feels a bit rushed. I also personally feel that some of the scenes were drug out longer than they needed to in order to get the point. I felt it was unneeded and easy to become distracted by things outside the film in those moments that felt slow and overly detailed. I also thought that some of the supporting characters that made frequent appearances, like Nadine Groot and Cherry Valance, could have been developed more. Though I love a good romance, it felt like the connection between Matt and Tess was fast and unnatural. They seemed to be in love after a short amount of time, and it was forced in a way. Despite these weaknesses, the film is a great film and has many strengths as well. Next, we'll talk about those strengths. The film was a strong and cohesive film. It involves a complex father-son dynamic between Garth and Dunson, which develops into a core emotional conflict between Dunson and Matt. It's a well-developed story and has well-developed characters despite the 10-year gap in the beginning of the film. Characters like Nadine and Cherry add depth to the film with comedic relief as well as the unpredictable. It is a layered film that explores authority, conflict, and hints of romance and drama. Next, we'll talk about camera work. First is long takes. Hawks preferred long takes to avoid cuts. Because of this, scenes with a lot of dialogue flowed very nicely. Next was the realistic cattle drive sequences. They took long takes and also used many scenes in deep focus, which kept both the foreground and the background in focus, which was crucial in order to capture those vast landscapes in large-scale drives. Dissolve feature was also used very often, as well as panning shots, close-ups for intensity, and medium shots. Dunson was also shot from low angles very frequently to increase the intensity of his character. Now I'm going to show two different shots from the film. The first one is about the dissolve feature that was used very often, and the second one will be about a realistic cattle drive sequence.
We're in Texas. It feels good to me.
From that film, they dissolve from the film into this narration like diary that's being kept throughout the film. This diary appears frequently throughout the film to, in a way, catch the watcher up to pace in what is happening and where we're going next. And then they dissolve out of the diary and the writing back into the film. Next, we'll watch a shot that is from the film that shows their realistic cattle drive sequence. Clip, the film was shot in that deep focus in order to capture those large-scale cattle drive sequences that were very realistic because they also used a lot of panning and tracking shots throughout the film. Next, I'm going to be discussing sound. The film had a mix of diegetic and non-diegetic sound. Diegetic sound was used for scenes that included dialogue, cattle environment sounds, and gun sounds. Non-diegetic sound was used for music scores and narration of the book flashes. The next two clips will be examples of diegetic and non-diegetic sounds from the film.
Hey, that's good too. Come on, keep it going.
About the legacy of this film, or why this film is considered to be an iconic film. Red River helped to establish cattle drives as a part of the Western film genre. The film included large landscapes, cowboys, challenges, and drama. Those large landscapes are incredibly difficult to film, especially in 1948, making this film iconic for its ability to capture those large landscapes in such an effective way. The film also set the standard for Western stories. It also introduced a common trope with the father-son dynamic between Dunson and Garth. This film also contains the famous cattle drive sequence, and it is one of the most realistic in film history. Red River has also been selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Lastly, in conclusion, Red River is a very strong film that combines action, adventure, and drama. The film storyline was phenomenal and expertly directed by Howard Hawks. John Wayne and Montgomery Clift did an outstanding job as leaders in the film, and they were genuine and intentional in the portrayal of their characters. The film set the standard for American Westerns and still influences American Westerns today. I highly recommend the film. It's an attention-holding action film with underlying romance and drama. I was skeptical at first, but I ended up really enjoying the film. It is free on Amazon Prime Video, and I would definitely give it a watch if you're interested, because overall it is very impressive for its time and quite entertaining.